It's D Smoke here. I just had a wonderful conversation with my man Nick from Hardknocktv. Y'all check in, stay tuned. Road, you know.
Through all this time that you're writing, you're also mentoring, you're also teaching. As somebody who's worked with youth, I also feel like a lot of times I'm learning more teaching them than they are from me. While you're doing that, while you're writing, how did that kind of like seep into the artistry of things?
One, I just think teaching, it makes you smarter. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not the kind of smart where it's like, I know a lot of information, I can quote this. It makes you like your instincts sharper. If you're that teacher that's putting your heart out there day in, day out, then you have to contend with what they bring in. You can't just have this like, I got this intention and this is what it is and you guys gonna align with that. Like, no, you have to be sensitive to what's going on. You know, some of my best days in teaching were happened when I went in there tired and unprepared, and I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And then something incredible happens. You know what I'm saying? When I went in there like, all right, I'm well rested, I got my lesson plan, here we go. And the students would kick my ass that day, like, nah, we doing something, you know? Mm-hmm. So it just makes you sharper and wiser, you know, if you really commit to it and you put your heart in it. But what teaching did for me, because I had a weird upbringing, like me and my brothers, we've always been good at fighting. Pops was locked up, we was fighting early. Came home, they put us in karate. We still fight, you know. So that was our past in the hood. Like, we never gang bang because our pops is in the house. You could come kick it out the house, you know. We can't just go everywhere. But at the same time, you know, compared to a lot of people in Inglewood, we're sheltered, right? I wasn't the pistol toting, drug dealing 14-year-old, you know what I'm saying? I go to church, right? But if a pistol toting, drug dealer 14-year-old would cross me and be like, you know, where you from? Run it. We could run fair ones all day. And we know enough people in the city to where, you know, the people in the city at least aren't trying to do us like long-term harm, shoot us and shit. So we had the platform to be like, hey man, y'all run a fair one and get back. But relatively, I thought I knew Inglewood coming out of Inglewood, but it's really, I was like enough Inglewood to where people didn't fuck with me, but I was still straight and narrow, right? Coming back to teach is when I'm forced to like dive into all of these different stories of what's really going on in the city. And I didn't have the luxury of ignoring the drama, right? I ignored the drama on the way up. Like, hey, if it don't concern me, you know, and I think that's a smart ass strategy in the hood. Like, you can't be bought into everything that's going on. It's like, then it'll consume you, right? But as a teacher, it's my job to care, you know. So like, for example, on Inglewood High, the project I just released, like Lil Red is not my story, but it's a story I saw a million times. And a student hit me today like, bro, you did your shit with that video. And he's, you know, he got a family and a kid, but when he was in my classroom, you know, he had like a year prior seen his brother get killed on Crenshaw, Manchester. He was the student who me and him would chop it up at lunchtime, and I used to keep peanut butter and jelly in the cabinet. Like, so I would just be like, boy, we could sit and make a sandwich like here. And he was the student that his parole officer would literally come pull him out of class, like grab your backpack and have him turning his pockets inside out, checking his backpack and all kind of shit. And I'm watching it and I'm trying to tell the PO, like, you know, he doing good. You know, you could just kind of ask, like, you don't have to like embarrass the kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but he hits me and he's like, bro, you did that. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, the student stories, I think that gave me, it charged me to really dive into the darker side of Inglewood, right? Because I think people aren't going to appreciate how inspirational you can be unless they feel like you're familiar with how hard it can actually be in that place you're from. So the students' experiences got my bars up, you know.
One thing that I appreciate when you're talking about Inglewood, and I feel like when you talk to real ones, this is usually the case, you can talk about what's going on, but you don't glorify it. Because I feel like the ones that have really gone through it, there's nothing to glorify.
It's not glorious.
Right.
It's not, it's a trap. It's a trap, you know, and no, I'm not going to glorify it. The interesting thing is, like, it took a gun being pointed in my face for me to realize, like, damn, I'm not beyond that same lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Because when I felt that, if me having a gun would have meant that not happening and him being on the other side of that, I knew that, then there's something in me that if my back is against the wall, could be in the very same situation, you know? So it's not glorifying it at all, but speaking from a place of, like, I'm fully familiar with what that means. And it for a lot of people, it begins with having been afraid to that degree, you know? Yeah, no, it's nothing glorious about, you know what I'm saying, ducking and hearing bullets fly by your shit. It's nothing dope about, you know, being on the curb, you know, for like an hour and a half handcuffed because somebody you in the car with has some shit that you didn't know about. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's true, and there's a lot of wisdom to be shared by telling those stories, you know. And I'm just fortunate enough to have, like, witnessed those things and still be sitting here.
Do any particular lessons that you might have learned while you were teaching the youth that kind of like stick out to you?
Yeah, there was a situation where there was this kid, and I thought we had built a rapport. I knew, like, I could tell who the knuckleheads are early on. So I'm like, okay, this is my pet project. I'm gonna make sure, like, when ain't nobody around, I'm gonna reach out to him, be real direct, and be like, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm checking in with you. What's going on? Right? So there was a kid named Marvin, and me and him had built a rapport. And then one day he comes in super high. Like, I don't know if it was just weed, he was super high. You know, he still participated. He's still one of the smartest kids I have. So I'm like, all right, I'm not tripping off of you being high. Let's just kind of reincorporate it into the lesson. Because if I do that well, then I look brilliant. The other students have a good time, and they still are part of this activity, right? So that was going well all up until he started throwing gang signs up at this other student, like boop, 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 boop. And I'm like, Marvin, hey, look, bro, it's, you know, it's only so much we can tolerate. You can't do that in class, bro. It just switches the energy. I'm trying to just get him to understand it. And then he turns and looks at me and throws the gang signs up right at me, like boop, 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 boop. And then I had to, for a quick second, I had to tell him, like, hey, bro, I ain't no little motherfucking kid, bro. I will beat your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm too old for you to bang on me in my classroom. Like, I'll beat your ass. He's like, what? And then at that time, their biggest insult was like, you weird. Like, you a weirdo, you know? And they would say it like, you a bitch ass. But they would just say, you a weirdo. And then he was like, you a weirdo. I was like, hey, man, get out my class, bro. He was like, whatever, I'm out. You weird. Oh, weird ass, right? So he, on his way out, he's still talking. And then, you know, he ditches a couple days. Like, I ain't fucking with Ferris right now, you know. When he does come back, he's still quiet. So my thing is, if our last interaction was negative, we got to have a talk before you even in here, because I can't just let that energy linger. So I'm like, hey, Marvin, come holler at me outside, right? So we go outside, and I'm like, look, bro, I thought we had a rapport. Because this is well into the year. I'm like, I thought we had a rapport, bro. We was cool. Like, you can't just be blatantly disrespecting me. And then he was just on some, like, he wasn't trying to hear it, like, whatever, bro, all right, whatever. Didn't look at me. And then I'm like, bro, don't ever do that. And he's still like, whatever. Like, as long as I'm telling him, like, don't do this, he didn't give a shit. Then I was like, man, I thought we was better than that. You know what? You hurt my feelings, bro. Like, I was hurt by what you did. And he stopped, and he looked at me, and he was like, man, I'm sorry, dog. You know, and all of that, all of me, like, don't ever trying to set these boundaries and be stern, it didn't work. But when I was like, man, you hurt my feelings, bro. And you know, I expect more of you. And then he was like, I'm sorry, bro. It won't happen again. And I was like, damn, this is the toughest kid. So I'm thinking, like, he got to see that I can match him. You know what I'm saying? to respect me, which a lot of times is true. You know, actually, no. It's more so true when the kids are acting tough. When kids act tough and then you show them real tough, then they like, oh, shoot, my bad. But when they're really tough kids, like you matching they tough, that'll just go on forever. Whereas if you like, let me introduce you to, because they know you tough. But then when you introduce them to vulnerable, then they're like, damn, oh, that's okay. Well, let me be honest with you, bro. My bad. I knew I was wrong. He said, I knew I was wrong. And I'm like, fuck. Like, damn, that's all I had to do, nigga. Like, goddamn. But so that's something I learned. And when I knew I was dealing with a real tough kid, that's when I would be like, hey, man, let's talk. But so I learned the difference between a real tough kid, because he was really with the shit. You know what I'm saying? And somebody who wants to put on a show. Somebody you wants to put on a show, you could bark at them. And, you know, with the intent to bite if need be. My bite is like, my real bite is get the fuck out of my classroom because you want to be here. Like, you know, I create that environment, you know, like when it's work time, I put on music, I do this. Like, there's a certain amount of leeway they know they have because I understand that they're smart coming in. I'm not here to make you smart, motherfucker. Like, I'm here to facilitate an experience that changes how y'all view shit, you know. So I think that was a big lesson. Like, you know, when to or how to approach people, you know.
It goes back to the Bruce Lee analogy, right?
Yep.
You got to be watered. You got to know.
Because that shit was not working. Don't you ever bang on me. Fuck you. Fuck you. You know, but right. Yeah.
I tried to find a 2006 album called Producer of the Year. I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. I don't know if you like took it down or that was pre-internet time and it's just there's physical copies somewhere where I need to go dig.
I feel like it's somewhere on CD, baby.
I went on Amazon, couldn't get it on Amazon. I was like, all right, he either like just took this off the internet or this was pre-internet.
Oh man, it's so funny. Producer of the Year is me being Diddy and Khaled at the same time.
Wow. I gotta find it now.
I only have verses. I only have verses on the first song and the last. No, there's a verse somewhere in the middle on somebody else's song. Okay. But it was that camp of me, my brother Davion, my boy Chiz, and Tiffany Goucher, putting the project together. Tiffany actually has the dopest beat on the whole project. And it's just the intro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like looking back, I misled people into what the project was going to be. But
at first, I didn't know it was you because the cover is like a profile shot of you.
It's a profile shot.
And it was before the dreads.
Yes, it was.
And I was like, wait, all right, this is somebody else called D-Smoke and it happened to be around in 2006, or is this D-Smoke?
2006 is when they said it came out?
That's what this said.
I feel like it was earlier. I feel like it was 2000 because it was in my first couple years at UCLA when I put it out because I'm hitting the campus with it tough.
This is CDs still.
CDs,
this
yes.
Is pre-digital.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but we did upload it. But I feel like we uploaded it to the site that would still ship you a CD. Like, like I don't think it was. So it was. I know it was on CD, baby.
Did you hit any of the mom and pop? Because at that time,
yes,
I was actually working at Sony, and I did all the mom and pop record stores. So I was at Vision Records on Crenshaw. I had all the VIP stores, King of Music, Midnight.
Where's the one that's by, what's the one called that's by Hamilton High School?
Midnight Records.
Yes, Midnight Records.
Yeah.
So that's the one where we built a relationship over there because.
Was that Sam? Might have been Sam.
Yeah. Yeah, bigger dude, black dude. Yeah.
He was ahead of the game because at that point,
he was dope.
It was like you could tell the CD sales were kind of going down, but the cats who were selling the pro clubs and the cats that had the fades in the actual shop, you can come get your, get right. Those are the ones that were kind of surviving while all the other ones were like, all right, people aren't coming in to buy music anymore.
Right. We didn't make it to too many mom and pop shops. I could do well around campus, just like hustling them. And of course, I'm a student full time, so it's like I'm a late bloomer in terms of marketing and promotion of the project. Like, we've been doing music, so I don't know if it was just like my ego being like, we so dope, why the hell we ain't on yet? And it's like a whole science of how to get your music out there that we didn't quite tap into early on. But Producer of the Year came out, and it's me making beats and like tagging man, like, I'm calling out Davion Ferris to sing for y'all, listen to him. And then that's it. And I had my little call out. I used to be like, D Smoke's the name because the track is Flames. And then I would just then let the next artist. I know, man, I don't want you playing that nowhere, bro. I was a kid, man. I was a kid.
And the reason why I wanted to get through all this stuff is I feel like, you know, people have seen the show, and I think they don't have necessarily the context of the work you've been putting in for over a decade. Mm-hmm. That story feels so rich that I want to make sure that story gets out there too.
Absolutely.
Was there any time where you're like, man, I'm just going to do teaching full time, I'm going to do something, I'm going to give up the music, or you always knew that it was going to work out for you?
I had a joke, like when it gets hard, I'd always say, like, man, I'm going back to grad school. You know what I'm saying? Did I ever really consider going back to grad school? Well, one, I dropped out of grad school 3 times.
Oh, wow.
I was only in grad school because the teaching positions that I had at the time required me to be currently enrolled. I never got a full teaching credential. But they knew of me from teaching at other schools, and because the circuit is small, plus it's like, oh, who's the black Spanish teacher? Oh, he's dope. Hire him. They literally called me because over the course of like 10 years of teaching, I've taken like 4 years off. So I would leave, be like, I'm doing music full time, you know, figure out how to sustain myself and just do music. And but I get that call and it would be right on time because I'd be like, yeah, my little savings is running low, you know. So what was the question again?
I was just saying, if you ever thought about stopping music?
I never. The crazy thing is, a lot of people are like, damn, D Smoke made it at 33. You know, I believe again. You know, and I'm like, damn, y'all stopped? Like, I never stopped thinking that I didn't know how. Right. And before the show, I felt like I got to a place where everything was aligning. And so that's why I decided to do the show, not because I needed the show, but because we was in a place to do it. So then this is like, ooh, that's the extra little kick behind what we know we're positioned to do. And I always say we, because if you're not thinking of how to structure yourself for something big, it'll just be a good look after good look. You know what I'm saying? But if you're structuring yourself and surrounding yourself by a team of people who play different roles, then you can withstand like a real push. You know what I'm saying? So I'm
glad you brought that up, because there were some interviews where you were saying we, and I was like, is he talking in the third person, or is he talking about him and his brothers, or is he talking about him and his team? Right.
So we, if we're talking about Woodworks, was me, my brother's Tiff. If we talk about we right now, it's like me, DJ Shanks, Greg, Mac. You know, this is the camp of people that are like all play different roles and know how to contribute. Like, their previous success in their own life and endeavors lend them so much like wisdom and ideas and instincts on how to enhance what I as an artist am doing. So I never felt like I gotta give up all the way. I did at one point consider applying to a PhD program. I did apply to a PhD program, and I got the whole like, man, we're looking at your application. You're super talented, super dope. We'd love to work with you. You need some more research experience. You know what I'm saying? And I'm super glad that I didn't get into this UCLA urban schooling PhD program, because I've like interacted, or I have friends who are now, you know, doctors, and watching them go through that process, it's like, oh, there's no half doing a PhD program. That's your life, all of it, for that 4 years. And it alters you. You know what I'm saying? So if that's what you want to do, you're giving it what little bit of creative energy I would want to reserve, I couldn't. Yep. You know, so.
I could speak for that firsthand, because my mom got her PhD. So I was like, I saw what it took out of her just to, you know, go to school and do that. So. Yeah,
man, it's crazy. So I never gave up in my heart, though. You know, I was always willing to work a job, and I thought PhD program, oh, then I make 90, 100 grand a year. You know how many videos I can make with that? You know what I'm saying? Not knowing that you position yourself right, people gonna want to make videos, you know, they gonna want to pay for your videos. So that's just where I, you know, where I always was. I never really tripped off of age either, you know. So I told my other brother, I was like, there's no expiration date on realness. You know, the older you get, the more you align with timeless artists. You know what I'm saying?
Andre 3000 is my favorite rapper of all time.
Same.
I interviewed him 5 years ago, and I was asking him why he wasn't making any music. And he was like, well, hip hop by definition is a youth culture. He's like, I don't want to bring old energy into a youth culture. He's like, nobody wants to hear me talking about driving my kids to soccer practice or getting my prostate exam. I left that interview, I was just like heartbroken. I was like, damn, there's no space for my favorite rapper to talk about what he's going through. And I started really thinking about it, and I was like, okay, all of us who grew up on hip hop are now turning 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever it might be. How are we gonna relate when all the songs in the radio are talking about things from an 18-year-old perspective or a 13-year-old perspective or a 20? I was like, there has to be a conversation had in the community to really be honest and be like, we need to evolve. We need to have, there needs to be a space for the youth culture always, but there also needs to be a space for, as we grow up, for us to be honest about whatever it is we're going through and not try to live a life that we were living 20 years ago.
Right.
There's a bunch of other stuff that ties into that too. The fact that like hip hop pioneers aren't revered the way the rock pioneers are. Why is Rakim not touring the way that the Rolling Stones are touring? Like, this is a conversation that we're not really having yet because there is a stigma to growing old, and it's kind of like, well, whatever the hottest new thing is, that's hip hop, and everything else becomes obsolete. Right.
There's certain factors that play with that, right? One, the music industry monsters don't capitalize on other art forms the way they do hip hop. There's this very aggressive, like, oh, scoop them up while they fresh, put a lot behind them, and eat off of them. Industrial element to hip hop, right? It's like how many black-owned businesses are in the black community. It's the same thing. Like, we're the only culture that allows this external factor to come and capitalize off of our gold, right? So that doesn't exist in other forms of music, right? Which, you know, kind of contributes to this image. And it's not that hip hop fans go anywhere, right? One of my favorite books is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yep.
And there's a part an anecdote that talks about a shoe salesman, 2 shoe salesmen. One goes into a city and nobody's wearing shoes, and he's like, fuck, I can't sell no goddamn shoes over here. Ain't nobody wearing shoes. Then you got another one who's a shoe salesman. He comes in here like, ooh, nobody has shoes on. I'm the man. Like, I'm cleaning up, right? So my idea is like, I go into hip hop and it's like, damn, ain't no older voices. Fuck I'm gonna do here. Or it's like, wait, or no, even better. We could say older voices, or we could say no black Spanish speaking artists who aren't native speakers. And then, you know, I can easily be like, nobody wants to hear that. How dare I? I don't come from, you know, I'm not from Panama. You know what I'm saying? Or I can be like, nobody's doing this. You know, it's wide the fuck open. Let's do it, you know? And so in terms of like where hip hop is and this audience, it just looks to me like a huge ass opportunity for people who can rap their motherfucking ass off and can actually say something that shapes people who have some sense of how the world actually works, right? There are people who want to listen to hip hop. You don't want to drive down your street feeling in love. Like, I'll feel in love when I get home. On my way to work, I need to feel focused, wise, energetic, you know, angry a little bit just so I can get that edge, you know. Like, there are different types of people who are productive citizens who want to be influenced by music, right? In the way that people used to listen to Stevie and allow it to shape who they are and who they're becoming, you know. So that's wide open, and I just have to disagree with my favorite rapper and say that I didn't know Andre 3000 was taking his kids to soccer practice. You know what I'm saying? Shit, I'm damn near his age. Maybe I need to be getting my prostate checked too, goddamn it. You know what I'm saying? Was by somebody other than my girlfriend, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I think it's a place for it all. And country music does that all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just disagree that hip hop it belongs to the youth. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it's the newest of all of these musical genres, if we're gonna call it that. But
we're coming up on 50 years.
We're coming up on 50 years.
We don't even have a hip hop Hall of Fame yet.
Right.
We got to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with our superstars.
To be considered, right. And then I think we also got to those voices who make hip hop somewhat more healthy than it has been. I think we got to put those to the top so that it has longevity. There's no longevity in be like, you know, fucking shit up.
Yeah.
You know, you live by the door, you die by the sword.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So
when hip hop started off as a home cooked meal, now it's become fast food, and we're taking the nutrients out of it. We're not preserving the nutrients in the meal when we're trying to just, you know,
put it out. You know, factory line, assembly lining.
Yep.
Nah, exactly.
When was the first time that you decided you wanted to spit in Spanish?